Beyond the Headlines is brought to you by Alive. Alive, we got you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Clint Watson. Welcome to the show. COVID-19 cases now stand at 55, with an additional case being recorded today. According to health officials, the latest case is a 61-year-old woman who is now in hospital. Officials tell us she has no travel history. Now, so far, there have been 46 cases recorded in New Providence, 7 in Grand Bahama, 1 in Cat Key, and 1 recorded case in Bimini. The latest figures being released as we are just less than 2 hours, really an hour away now from the third nationwide lockdown, which begins at 9 o'clock tonight. Government is now looking to expand testing, beginning with populations that are most vulnerable. Of course, for a full breakdown of that, you can go to our website at ewnews.com. On to another important story tonight. A family is pleading on government to amend the emergency order to allow them to receive money from abroad through money transfer services. The tearful mother called our newsroom today saying that they're in the U.S. and, of course, at several occasions tried to send money through money service companies but have been unable to do so. She says now they're on their last resort and assistance from government is taking far too long.
We don't put on our application to national insurance, and we also put on our application to social service to get some assistance. You understand? I understand that you have to be patient and you have to wait, but in the meantime, if you're, we call the family when we get down to the cashing road, they say the government has put a ban on us receiving the money. I don't know why, because we've been patient waiting on the government, but there's no income coming into the home, and if your loved one or family members could help you, I don't see why the government put a ban on it, because right now there's nothing in the house to eat. There's nothing. We down to nothing, penniless. There's no income coming in nowhere. We're waiting patiently for the government to put something on our accounts. But in the meantime, if we get a little help, we wouldn't mind. So I would like to know, my issue is the government, could the government lift the ban, have compassion on the Bahamian people?
Well, Attorney General Carl Bethel, in an early address in the Senate, says that the amendments will change as government sees a need, noting that the situation is a complex one as it relates to the emergency order, knowing that one ban or limitation may affect another unintentionally. And of course, they're not the only ones. We have been hearing all kinds of stories regarding people trying to send money either in the country or out of the country. People who are obviously trapped or stranded in other parts of the world are trying to get funds to be able to stay there until the countries open up, but they're saying relatives can't send money to them either. Now, it is something that we need to investigate, and we will do just that, as to why it is that you can't facilitate the transfer of money in between countries during this time. We'll try and get a clarification on that, because many people are trying to figure out why is it that people can't send money, neither receive money under this COVID order. So we're going to be following up with this story, as so many families are depending on the transfer of money to be able to get through this very difficult period. Well, there's a lot of things that COVID-19 has caused. We know that for sure. But one that's significantly impacted by this virus is human resources. If you've really stopped and thought about it, it's really impacting people. Tonight we're having a discussion on everything, I call it everything HR. My guest tonight is a people, talent, and cultural strategist, Simone Bowes, and she joins me in studio tonight. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you for having me.
When we talk about human resources, people automatically think, okay, HR. You're either getting hired, you're getting fired, or you're doing something wrong, you're doing something right? And so there's always a discussion about it. And I know so many people are perhaps right now at home, particularly those who don't have jobs. There's thousands of Bahamians and residents who have been furloughed from their jobs or let go. And they're trying to probably figure out right now, as people now begin to strategize, opening up countries, what's their next move? Because you don't know if your employer is going to call you back or how soon they're going to call you back. What should people, particularly those who are at home right now without jobs, be thinking and strategizing right now?
I think the first thing is definitely not to panic, because when you panic and you get fearful, you don't think clearly. So the first thing is to really sit down and think about options. Think about all the eventualities. What if my company doesn't open back up?
Right.
What if they don't ask me back? Because that's going to be a serious consideration for a lot of companies. This time is going to make them think about, well, how many people do I really need to make this business function?
Let's pause right there. That's a good point, because it doesn't mean because you've been let go, when this is all lifted, the company is obligated to call you back, because they're not. If particularly if they terminated you or laid you off, you've gotten benefits, they don't have to really call you back. So like you said, a lot of companies will perhaps use this opportunity to decide who do we really want to keep from who do we don't want to keep. That's a good point.
Yeah, and from a compliance standpoint, as you mentioned, if people were to be terminated, you really should there should be some cause.
Right.
Right? And so this is an opportunity that people will use.
Yeah.
COVID is going to get blamed for everything.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
I mean, and it's easy to do that because you can say, well, my business operations have changed. I can't sustain the staffing that I had before.
Yeah.
And so, we're just not going to bring everybody back. That is an eventuality. And so what I think people need to do during this time is to start exploring options. There are a lot of opportunities out there now to even learn and retool. This is the perfect time. There are universities and institutions that are offering free courses right now. Jump on and take those things, retool, add value, so that when you do get back out in the market, that you are more valuable when you go out.
Should people be updating their resumes at this point? Because some people may say, well, what does it make any sense? People ain't gonna be hiring nobody. People, probably know who they want to take back, and not everybody else not going to take back. And that's not necessarily true, because there are going to be companies who are going to say, you know what? Let me see who are the better candidates out there before I take back the old staff. So should people be updating their resumes and preparing themselves?
Absolutely. This is the time now to do that. You should be revamping your resume. You should always go and brush that up. You should make sure that you have a LinkedIn profile. I'm surprised at how many professionals don't even think about LinkedIn or don't know what it is. Or they say, oh, well, I have an old profile. And that is one of the go-to places for HR professionals to scope out a potential employee. So definitely brush up on that resume, brush up on your social media presence, brush up on your interviewing skills. And you know what? It's really not true that people aren't hiring, because people are, as you mentioned, people are thinking about when this is going to pass, because it is going to pass.
Yes.
We just don't know when, and we don't know how it's going to evolve, but it is going to pass. And so people are looking. People are hiring in Nassau right now. I can tell you, because think about it. You may have some businesses that are closed, but you also have some businesses that are thriving right now.
Yeah, true.
The demand on them has increased, and you can see that savvy entrepreneurs are jumping in on opportunities that may not have been in their scope before. But now we have people making masks, we have people making hand sanitizer, and that's smart. We have people delivering food, right? So there are opportunities out there where it's actually exploding in some areas. And so you should be wise and prepare for that.
You mentioned something saying increase your presence on social media. What do you mean by that?
So people feel that if this is my personal page, then you should, as a potential employer, shouldn't hold that against me. So if I decide to get on my page and rant, or I decide to put on provocative pictures or a video or something that does not paint me in a good professional light, that it won't be held against me. And that's not true. Now, whether or not it's right, it is what people do, because people want to understand who you are as a person. The resume only gets your foot in the door for an interview. The interview is also that tool that people use to get to know you. So people are going to go around different means to figure out who you are, because I want to know if you're going to be a threat to my organization, if you're going to fit in with everybody else that's going to work here, if you fit in with the culture of the organization and how we work, how we think, and the type of people that we want in our company. And so how you portray yourself outside of work tells us a lot.
People have been either online doing all kinds of things. A lot of people have been talking about, oh, this is a great time to upgrade my skills, get a new craft, get a new skill. Can that actually help in making you look a little bit better on paper by going online and doing perhaps a course or taking some special upgrade to be able to make yourself look more presentable?
Absolutely, because an employer is looking for somebody who can perform, right? And I know culturally in our country, a lot of people feel that I'll perform for the interview, but then once I get in, I get comfortable, I get relaxed, and depending on the industry that you're in, if the company or that business doesn't apply the pressure to perform, then people get lax. You have a lot of professionals out there who don't have a resume at all, because depending on how they got the job, because a lot of jobs are offered through referral. So if I refer you to a friend of mine and I'm desperate, I need you to start like tomorrow. Maybe I just have an application form, maybe not. Man, come. You look clean, you look decent. Okay, come and work. And some people have never had to do one, or they've been on a job for so long that they've never had to prepare one. And so they may feel like, I'm comfortable, and this job, I'm just gonna be here forever, and everything is gonna be A-okay. COVID-19 has shown all of us that we can't take anything for granted, and we can't get so comfortable and so lax. So I'll give you an example. A lot of businesses now, for those persons who are still required to work, are working from home. So for instance, if you have always been afraid of technology, if you're afraid of the computer, right? Now you're in trouble, because you're expected to participate virtually. You're expected to, that use of technology has heightened tremendously around the world. And we see it in the use of internet and Wi-Fi, right? It's sluggish because everybody's on there now.
Wow. Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to pick up with that, because people are saying, oh, COVID-19, COVID-19. You hear people talking about Zoom. You're talking about virtual reality, and people are saying, what is all of that? How do you get into what's going on? And then I also want to talk about what happens to those persons who work for companies where people are using as excuse, you got to perform or go home because it's COVID-19 environment and people need the job. We're going to talk about that as well, so that people don't become overwhelmed with that as well. We'll take a break. We're coming right back. You're watching Beyond the Headlines. It's Everything HR Tonight. We're back after this.
Here at Solomon's, we don't just believe in great brands. We believe in creating unforgettable memories and celebrating everyday living with you and your family. Every aisle is filled with all you need, a great value with a variety and a selection of all your favorite groceries and products, saving you time and keeping you on a budget. Great food changes everything. Shop at your local Solomon's for food, for family, for you.
Welcome back to the show. We're talking about everything HR tonight with HR expert Simone Bowe, and just getting the information that we all need to know what move to make based on where you are. Before the break, we were talking about the revolution of social media and internet and all of the technology, and people can become overwhelmed trying to figure out webinars. You hear people talk about webinars. People are like, what is webinars? You hear people talking about virtual meetings, Zoom meetings. That can become overwhelming for a person. How do you jump in and figure out where do you fall in the grand scheme of things when everybody's talking about everything's online now?
I know, and it's like an information overload right now, because everybody's on there, everybody's offering some class, everybody's doing something online, and it's because now that is the medium through which we're doing business. And so I feel this is where the role of HR comes into play, where you can now prepare your team to show them this is the tool that we're going to use in this organization, and show them how to use it, so that people get more comfortable with the technology and they understand what it all means. And so when we talk about webinars, of course, that's a play of an online seminar, right? So it's a large meeting room, just the way you would go to a hotel and sit and go to a conference or something like that, it's all done online. And so again, we have to think about some protocols. You have to think about, if your camera is on, you need to at least look presentable from the waist up.
And the environment in the background.
The environment in the background noise, the protocols of how when you get on there, you need to mute your microphone so people don't hear what's going on in the background and all those sorts of things. So it can be overwhelming, but I think the best thing with technology is to jump into it.
Right.
I think the longer that you continue to be afraid of it, the more you will stay away from it, and you will depend on other people to always try to pass you off or, let me look over your shoulder. No, this is your time, and I think this is what this time is showing all of us. We're all on our own, pretty much, and we need to figure things out for ourselves, and it's going to be for your betterment.
What do you say to people who say, they're talking about HR tonight? Isn't this a bit early to be talking about HR now and after COVID? Is this too early?
Not at all. I mean, HR it should be in the thick of this because, as you mentioned before, we're talking about people. Yeah. We're talking about people's livelihood. We're talking about their overall well-being. And we're talking about the culture of an organization and the perception of an organization. And so we can look at things that people are doing locally and abroad to make sure that they're looking out for their people. I mean, we have people from huge corporations who have made announcements like, I'm not taking a salary until for the rest of this year. CEOs of large hotel chains and things like that. Our top executives are taking a 50% pay cut. Why? They said, because we don't want our staff to be disenfranchised in any way. We want the business to be sustained, and we're concerned about people. I was watching a video on the way here of this man that has 18 rental buildings, and he's given his entire thing. You saw that?
Yes, yeah, it was
all
powerful.
Of his tenants.
Yeah, a month free.
A month free, and
Wow.
he's telling everybody, pay it forward. So it's not too early. These are the types of things that people are doing because we have to think about people. It's not just the work. So a lot of people now are thrown into something that's completely new. Like working at home for some people is not new.
Right.
So if people are entrepreneurs or they're consultants or, the introverts today are saying, I've always been doing this. I've always been on my own. Working by myself is not a big deal. But you have some people, they thrive on the energy of other people around them. They thrive on the relationships that they've formed at work. So throwing them out of that, it has an emotional toll, it has a mental toll. And so we want to make sure that people are staying connected, that they're engaged with what's going on, that they understand what's happening, they have information, and that their well-being is secured.
There's always this concern as to, in the climates like these, undervaluing yourself. Because people will say, well, if you want this job, we can pay you X, Y, Z. Do you say yes just because you need the job? Or do you say, well, no, that's not what I'm worth. I'm worth more, and this is what I want. How do you know when you just lost an opportunity from when you just totally gave it away without even negotiating?
That's a very, very good question, and it is a tricky scenario to navigate. One of the things that I have seen in human resources is that people do undersell themselves.
Undersell?
They undersell. They don't negotiate well.
Wow.
So they come in, and this is a mindset thing. So if you don't value yourself and your worth, so a lot of times we will look back and we will say, well, how did that mediocre person get this amazing opportunity? I know I could run rings around this person.
Exactly.
Right? But they sold themselves.
Wow.
They went in there with confidence and they said, this is what I want. And then they would have to prove themselves later.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they asked for it. So a lot of people don't get it because they don't ask for it. I see it all the time. So if you're in business and if you have a product that you want to buy, and say you have that mug, and you're selling it for $10, and someone over there is selling it for $5. Which one are you going to go for if you're going to, say, resell that mug? You're going to go for the one for $5, right? So if you come into an interview, I already know what I have budgeted for this particular position. I know what I can offer you. This is why I'm giving you all some HR secrets now.
And we're listening.
So this is why we ask you, what's your salary expectation? That's why they ask you first. It's a negotiation tactic. because we want to hear where your range is and where that fits with what we're prepared to offer you. So if you throw out a low ball figure, I'm going to jump
Just
on
grab
that.
it.
I'll be like, oh, sure, fine, because I already knew I probably would have paid you twice that.
Wow.
This is business, though. It's business. So you have to think, I'm valuable, this is what I'm worth, but you have to be valuable. You can't ask for the sun, moon, and the stars when you're not going to add value. You're not able to perform.
That's a good point. Good point. So then my question obviously is switching careers, because some people are going to say, well, I was doing this for so many years. Perhaps maybe it's time for me to consider doing another skill. Is that risky, or should people be open for that?
I think people should be open to that. I think that there's a lot that's going to be very different. If people think that, pre-COVID-19, we're going back to what was normal then, that's not going to happen. And I think the world of work is going to be very, very different. And so there may be a possibility that you have to consider doing something else, doing something completely different. And so again, when we talk about using this time to now retool, I know of people who are doing that. They've gone back to college. Now I kind of have the time to focus. And again, you have to try to find opportunities to get experience, because some companies won't take a chance on someone that doesn't have experience in the area. So you have to, again, leverage your network. Is there something you can do to maybe volunteer, to intern, so that you can start to gain some experience, or be prepared to start over, being prepared to start from the bottom. And so sometimes we're not, well, I should be a manager or above.
Right.
But if you're changing careers and you're now a novice in this new career, you may have to be prepared to start at an entry-level role and work your way. So it's really a gut thing. It's where you are. It's where your career goals are. It's where you are in life, the stage of life that you're at. So for some people, money is not a big deal. Right. For some people, I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to get experience. This has been my dream. I just want to get an opportunity. And so they're not really worried about the compensation package. For somebody else on this stage of life, they may have a family, they may have a lot of bills. The money is more important. But again, you still need to think about value add. How are you adding value? How can you hit the ground running and perform?
So the thousands that came into a home now, unemployed, and they're now saying, okay, I'm here, I'm trying to get it together. What are some of the things they ought to do? What advice do you give them? And what advice do you give them as far as what to stay away from? And a lot of people are going to be stressing and worrying leads to eating junk food and overeating and all kinds of interpersonal issues. Yeah. What advice do you give to people who are home, the thousands of them who are trying to figure out, how am I going to pay these bills? What am I going to do next?
Well, the interesting thing about change and crisis is that it only reveals what already existed.
Wow.
Now that may sound a little deep, right? But it's true. So we see a lot of the stories where people are talking about strained relationships. People are talking about their finances and where they're at, we're right on the edge. Those things existed before COVID-19. So the crisis, which creates now strain and pressure and stress, is only revealing the flaws, the weaknesses, the dysfunctions that were already there. So it's causing people now to go inward and think about, is this the direction that I want? Was I really happy at that job? I've talked to people already who are like, I'm not really interested in going back to that toxic environment. I'm really happy here because I don't have to deal with these people. So I think people have to really take this time to think about, what do I want? First of all, define what that is for yourself. And then think about changing some of those habits that may have gotten you to where you are right now. And what can you do differently when you get another opportunity?
Good point. Before you go, you have a forum coming up. Tell us about that.
Yes, I'm really excited. I am doing a virtual leadership conference May 27th to the 29th. And so you can check out my social media pages. I'll be releasing that soon. But it really is a focus for helping leaders to navigate through change and crisis. So it's called Disrupted. Really excited.
Oh boy, I'm excited about that too. Simone, thank you so much for coming and sharing so much information to help our people. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
All right, stay with us. When we come back, we continue with our series. Tonight, it's about sports. interesting twist on sports, and then you can't go anywhere. This Friday, so we're gonna have some fun on a Friday. We're going into the kitchen. That's right, we're gonna cook up some curfew cuisine. All right, stay close, we're back after this.